FM 94, The Dark. It is that time again. It's time to get to know a band we play here on The Dark, and I'm excited about this. Tonight, I'm talking with TJ Harris. He's the lead singer of a band called Decyfer Down, which we're playing their latest song, Nothing More, which I'm going to tell you right away, TJ, this song is just ringing in my head all the time. I just love the chorus part when we get to it, and it's really catchy. And first of all, how are you doing? How are things down in North Carolina tonight?
Man, I'm doing great. We've just gotten back from playing a few shows and a little jet lag, but not too bad. The weather is kind of dreary here and just rainy from all the hurricane weather and just kind of the outskirts of that. So, but I'm doing good, and we're alive, so live and kicking here in North Carolina. Everything's good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, obviously there's been all sorts of crazy weather this fall, and especially down in that area. And like you had said to me before we started, you guys are about 5 hours off the coast, but still you get a lot of the remnants of hurricanes that come through wherever they're at, don't you?
Yeah, we tend to get some of the weather. It'll get windy and rainy at least, if nothing else. So it doesn't get too bad here, but actually a couple of the other band members live in around the Morehead City area, which is right down at the coast, around the Outer Banks, and they get a little bit more action than I do.
Let's talk about the band Decyfer Down. How did this band all come about? Give us the history of this, TJ.
Decyfer Down started in around 2003, and actually before my time. It started with Brandon and Chris and a couple of brothers, Josh and Caleb. So that was back in 2003. Fast forward to around 2006, I was in a different band called Fighting Instinct, and we actually toured together. And so that's how we got to meet. And the first lead singer, Caleb, he rolled in 2008 and asked me to fill in. I played about 5 shows, and the rest is history.
And let's get into the name right away. Might as well get to that too here. Decyfer Down. Do you know the story behind the name? Was it already named before you joined the band? And if it was, do you remember what the story was? Why they named it that?
Yeah. The name Decyfer Down. It started actually as just decipher, and just because the word means to interpret something of worth, which is what we feel we do with our music. And just our life stories and what we've been through. You know, I believe everybody, when you're writing, you're not, you don't do it to please people, and you don't do it for an audience. You do it as an outlet, and you're influenced daily, by what you go through, and and that's what you write about. So, just interpreting, our lives and what we feel that we're meant to do with our lives, and so Decyfer was originally the band name, and we were actually on a label with a band called Disciple, and it sounded so similar that the label was like, look, man, you guys got to do something. It sounds too much alike. And there was a merch box, a T-shirt box in the trailer one day, and it said Decyfer, and it had the arrow on it right there, and it said down, and we were like, well, Decyfer Down. We don't have to change it. We can just add the word down. It still means the same thing, and, we're good to go. So that's the story behind the name, basically.
Very cool. Very cool. We're talking with TJ Harris. He's the lead singer of the band Decyfer Down. And I know as we entered this interview tonight, I talked about Nothing More. And like I said, I can't get that song out of my head, which is awesome because that's what you want. And let's talk about the song, the song "Nothing More" in that. And the thing that I like about it is you go from you got one whole chord, you're going this way, and all of a sudden you just like turn it a totally different direction for the chorus, and it's very catchy. Talk about this song a little bit more.
That's kind of always been our thing. First off, stylistically, we've always liked to kind of hammer people with a nasty little riff, and then kind of have it lift out of that into like a more kind of beautiful melodic chorus like that song does. That song Nothing More is really, it's just about letting go of bad habits and letting go of relationships that tend to bring us down, and really just keep us from being who we were meant to be, and doing what we were meant to do in this life. a lot of times. And I mean, it can be anything as deep as, like, drug habits or just relationships, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, that's just kind of holding you back. And so, yeah, that's what it's about, just letting go of those things and just kind of living life.
Yeah, let's get your story a little bit, TJ. Growing up as a kid, what did you envision yourself being a singer, leading a band? Well, I guess as a kid growing up, what did you think your dreams were going to be?
I mean, at some point, I was kind of like every other kid. You dream of, you want to be an astronaut, you want to be a firefighter, a police officer, whatever. But I know when I was 4 or maybe 5 years old, I had this little plastic guitar, and it had nylon strings on it and a little speaker in the back, and it connected to a microphone, and you sang in the microphone, and it came out of the speaker in the back of the guitar. And I remember jumping off my bed with that guitar in my hand, and dropping to my knees and just doing the whole thing, and all the while, man, what was that song? You Give Love a Bad Name?
Oh yeah, Bon Jovi. Yeah, Bon Jovi.
Just because it could have been something besides Bon Jovi, but that's at 5, that's what your parents were listening to or whatever, and it was the mid '80s and or late '80s, I should say.
Yeah.
And that's what I was jamming.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah. Shot to the heart. Yeah, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. Yeah, little Bon Jovi. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Well, it's okay. So obviously you told us right now that your parents listened to some Bon Jovi. What were some other, I guess, influences as a kid growing up that you started listening to?
Man, one of my biggest vocal influences ever was Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
And just recently the music community, I mean, here recently it's just been one after the other, it seems like. And I hate what we're going through right now, and way more what the families are going through than us. But, we are in some capacity suffering with them. It's tough, man, but I still listen to Soundgarden all the time, just one of my favorite bands. So yeah, Chris Cornell is definitely a huge influence on me.
Right. Let's talk about that a little bit. I've actually, since the death of Chris Cornell, and then of course recently the death of Chester Bennington, and of course there have been others over the years, and I've talked to artists like yourself, up and coming artists, that a lot of them gravitated towards some of those artists that just passed away. How difficult is that for you and your fellow artists to see somebody like that struggle and maybe not even know about it?
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Nobody saw it coming, Honestly, it makes me wish that at some point, that I could have had the chance, or somebody could have had the chance, somebody with a positive message, man, that could get on tour with a band like that and just be able to spend a little bit of time with those guys, and just let them know that they are loved, man, and just be an open ear, and a shoulder. I mean, and it takes time. It takes time. You have to spend time with somebody for anybody to feel that kind of security and being able to talk to you like that. But I just wish that Decyfer Down or any other band, man, that they could have opened up, and maybe if there was anything that they needed to get off their chest or anything they needed to talk about, I just want to be a good influence. And even though, they've influenced me for years and obviously are older than me, I just want to, set an example and be a good influence and put something out there positive. There is a lot of darkness in and around the style of music that we play, but the crazy thing is that what we do is therapeutic to ourselves, and so it's kind of crazy, but at the same time, I think that the act of writing the song, the act of that making that composition and getting that story out is what's therapeutic. But then it seems that the crazy highs and crazy lows from touring and that part of the lifestyle, it seems, can be somewhat wearing.
Right, right. And the funny thing is, and I never thought about this too, but obviously and it's not funny, but the things that we're noticing here, like a Chris Cornell, I even go back to Scott Weiland too from STP, and then of course Chester Bennington. They're very high profile guys that are everybody's thinking everything's just fine, and all of a sudden this happens, and they're not really fine. So you think, just because you're at the pinnacle of your career, everything is good, but in reality, it might not be. It might be the worst thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of pressure involved in kind of being that high up the totem pole, so to speak.
Yeah.
And not just pressure to perform, but pressure to reproduce.
Right.
Album after album, that type of success. That's got to be very wearing on some of these guys, their minds.
Well, it's scary too, because everybody would like to get to that point that those artists are. Obviously, let's face it. You're one of them. I'm sure would love to get to that point, but then all of a sudden, all these other things start coming into play that you've never dealt with before. And sometimes people just can't deal with it, can they?
I guess not, man. And and we don't know what was going through Chris's mind or Chester's mind. But at the same time, man, the only thing that we can really do is just stay grounded and realize that we are an influence, no matter our age, no matter our demographic of fans. Ages or size or whatever. We're an influence to somebody, and everything we do influences someone in some capacity.
And this is, to me, honestly, and we'll get back to your music, but TJ, talking about this subject is huge, because this is not something that's just only for high-profile people. This is for everyday people. You might know somebody out there that is struggling, and this is where we, as individuals, as humans, need to stop and look and go, you know what? I might have a friend that kind of might be like something that happened to Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington, Scott Weiland. I need to take action on this. And it's huge, because there's people around us that are feeling that way day in and day out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never want to point the blame on somebody for not doing enough, but at the same time, it's like we have to challenge each other, like you say, to take action and not just stand idly by if we know something's going on with someone.
Right, right. We're talking with TJ Harris. The band is Decyfer Down. Their latest single on our airwaves is Nothing More, and I'm loving the song. Let's talk about some of the other music that you've made over the years and that. And I guess, how is the success of the band Decyfer Down been? Are you getting known nationwide, worldwide? I guess, where are things at here, I guess, right now?
Yeah, we're doing good, man. This is, this album was our first independent release. We were signed for a number of years, 2006 to 2000, late 14, maybe 2014. Mm-hmm. And so this was our first independent release. We were super stoked to be able to do that, and to be able to put our stamp on it and say, hey, we produced this ourselves, we recorded this ourselves. And, here it is. This is all DD. Like it, love it, or hate it. This is what we wanted to put out. No filters, no nobody pointing the finger saying do this or do that. So it's great, man. And we've we've been out for a while. We've toured, played 150, 200 shows a year at times, and we've kind of cut it back a little bit now. But yeah, we've been overseas and done that thing. We're going to Germany next week, in Latvia. We're gonna play 3 shows and come home, and then it's just working on a new record again.
Yeah, let's talk about touring a little bit. And one of the questions I always love to ask is, if you had to put together a tour, who else would you like to go out and play with? Let's talk about 3 other bands. Who would you like Decyfer Down to go out and play on a tour, maybe coming up in 2018?
Man, I think without it being, let's see, I would love to go out with Alter Bridge,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah, that would be good. Alter Bridge. Alter Bridge. We could do Papa Roach.
Okay.
You know, any of that stuff is kind of down the same vein. Just heavy hitting, hard rock, man. That's you know, can have its, you know, super heavy moments, but just super melodic. I just
Right.
you know, without it being too much of the same thing, which I don't think it's so close that it's too much of that. I think that would be fun.
Well, yeah, and it's a way also for a band. Obviously, a band like Papa Roach, they've paid their dues. They've got to where they want to be, or I think they're getting to where they want to be. Alter Bridge is another band like that too. First of all, Miles Kennedy has an unbelievable voice. He's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean that's a crazy voice, and that's kind of leads into my next question. Being a lead guy, is there anybody you said Chris Cornell you look up to, but is there anybody helping you currently right now get you better or get you to that next level out there that you kind of call on or maybe talk to, or you know, kind of to help you out?
vocally.
Yeah, vocally, yeah, or even stage presence wise.
Yeah, I haven't. Actually, I've always just thought, you know, if I can just watch some videos and go to some live shows and see some really good frontmen, and I'll tell you, Jacoby from Papa Roach is one of the best frontmen out there.
Absolutely.
In this genre, he is one of the best.
Yeah. Hey, I'm the number, and everybody knows around this area that I'm a number one Papa Roach fan. The other band that I'm really huge into, which is now not together right now, is Stained and Aaron Lewis. I think he's one heck of a guy too, because he maybe not the most charismatic guy up there, but he commands the stage, and you just watch and listen.
Yeah, that's true, and yeah, you're right. He's not the most. He doesn't seem to be the most like outgoing on stage, but at the same time, you feel it when he's singing, and you get it, and you definitely, you know, hear the emotion in his songs and when he's singing them. Another one is Lejean from Sevendust, dude. He's
Yes.
He brings that attitude to the stage, man, and he commands the crowd as well.
You know, the thing about Sevendust, which is so awesome, and obviously with Clint Lowry and that, in which he's a huge supporter of up and coming bands, is that's the thing. This Sevendust takes so many up and coming bands out with them and gets them their start, don't they?
Yeah, they're good dudes, man. You know, some of the other guys have met them before I joined, and they always just talked about how down to earth they were. And this was back in like the days like around seasons and stuff like that. So this was way back when, you know. And I've seen them 3 or 4 times in concert, and they never disappoint.
Hey, what's it like for an artist like yourself? You're up on stage and you watch other artists out there. I guess, what do you look for? And you mentioned kind of one of the kind of how the front man goes, but what do you guys, when you're watching somebody else perform, what are you guys there to do to try to see if it helps you guys out?
I just look for good musicianship, man, and you know, aside from good songs, I mean, whatever, you know, good songs can be written with a little bit of, you know, leadership, I guess, and a little bit of just kind of steering in the right direction. But I really look for good musicianship. I want to see, you know, I want to hear on stage what's on the record. I want them to be able to play it and sound like it, you know, vocally and the parts, the musical parts. And so that's really, for me, you know, if it's a new band or an older band or whatever, if I've already heard the record, I want to hear it like that on stage. Not that it's got to be perfect, because you know, we're jumping around acting like fools on stage sometimes. So you know, it's kind of hard to be perfect, but you know, I just want to know that they can do it, and that they can, you know, groove it. You know, if it's groovy stuff, that they can portray that on stage. You know.
All right. So if JayZ came to a Decyfer Down concert, how would I see Decyfer Down and TJ Harris performing?
110%, man. As hard as we can go. It sounds like the record. We people tell us all the time, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but people tell us all the time, man, you sound better than the record. You guys sound better than the record, and the record sounds freaking great. So I would say you come to a DD show, and you're not going to be disappointed for sure.
And you mentioned jumping around and all that stuff. Let's talk about injuries. I'm sure you've been injured before. Have you had some serious injuries when you've been jumping around up there?
Man, I'm injured right now.
Okay, what happened?
I don't know, dude. One of the things is, and a lot of people don't realize this, and I would stress to any young musicians that you're getting ready to get on the road, you're getting ready to crawl into a van for months.
Mm-hmm.
Man, take breaks driving. Get out and stretch your legs, do some stretches, and when you get to the venue, don't just jump out and start hauling in gear, but warm up. I know that sounds silly, but it happens. I've got something going on with my back right now, and we've heard time and time again how people have to have back surgeries and neck surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Phil from Pantera, back surgeries,
Yeah.
and those guys used to crush it on stage.
Right.
And it's just hard on your body, and you can't just jump up there and do that for 10 or 15 years and expect no consequences. So stretch, warm up, not just your vocals and not just your fingers or your hands or whatever, but your back, man, your legs, all that's super important. And yeah, I got something going on with my lower back right now. I actually just had an MRI last week. So I should be finding out tomorrow what kind of physical therapy or, care that I'm going to move forward with. But, I already had that. I played a festival just last month, and I didn't think twice about it because when you do this for so long, it's like second nature.
Right.
And you just jump up there and go for it. And first thing I did was jump in the air and tuck my feet, come back down with a guitar in my hand, and it reminded me very quickly. But at that point, you're like, you get mad and you muscle through it.
Absolutely, you have to do that. Yeah, I got your new venture here, which you can do a side project. It could be TJ Harris with stretching and techniques, and you can do a video or something for that, for
like
up and coming artists.
Yeah, like DDP yoga or something.
Yeah, there you go. You why not?
Oh, why not?
I mean, I don't know.
Everybody's got a side gig, right?
Exactly. You got to have some kind of side gig to help pay for stuff, right? Exactly. So there you go. That could be it. I think that might be it. If it happens, I'll relinquish my royalties that I would have gotten for that, so you can have it all. Okay.
I'll hold you to it.
Okay, no problem. Hey, we got to get going here, but I want to get to know a little bit more about how people can find out about the band Decyfer Down. What is the best way for them to do so?
All right, man. Facebook.com/Decyfer Down or Decyfer Down on Twitter. Also, Decyfer Down Official on Instagram. And I believe that's all of those stupid social media
sites. Well, it's funny, but social media is the way to go nowadays, isn't it?
It is. I guess it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad stuff out there, but at the same time, I think it's what we make it. And if we choose to focus on the bad, just like in the rest of our lives, if we choose to focus on the bad, then that's all we're going to see.
Right. Well, one thing I should mention, touring-wise, I know you mentioned you're going overseas to Germany and that. Any upcoming tours maybe in the upper Midwest, including Minnesota? Have you toured here before?
We have, man. It's been just a bit. Let's see, we hit Minnesota back in 2015. In the Midwest, 2015, 2016, a little bit.
Okay.
We didn't in 2017, but we're working on a new record to be released in the spring of 2018, and we're definitely going to hit every part of the USA. So.
Absolutely. Well, when you're coming up this way, make sure you make a stop in here, and we'll have you on and doing some acoustics some night. Sound good?
That sounds amazing.
Hey, it's a lot of fun talking to TJ, and I wish you guys the best of luck. Safe travels overseas. Have a lot of fun, and good luck on that upcoming album.
All right. Thanks a lot, JayZ. It's good talking to you, man.
Once again, that is TJ Harris. He's the lead singer of the band Decyfer Down. Their latest song is called Nothing More. You're hearing it right now. It's on The Dark. It's on FM 94.